Alright, so what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was in high school, and funny enough, this was back in my high school years of me being a dumb teenager. And if you guys know this channel a lot, you guys know I am pretty much one of the guys in my high school that always did the Devil's Tango. And let's just say today's story does get really insane. But before I fully get into it, I just want to say a special announcement. Since Christmas is coming up, we are doing a Christmas advent calendar on my Discord server, meaning that there are going to be fun challenges, games, streams, and movie nights all throughout this week, and also not to mention there are awesome giveaways that you guys can participate in. So if this interests you at all and you guys want to have some fun this holiday season, make sure you guys do click the link down in the description down below and join the Discord server. Anyways, let's get straight into this awesome story. So knowing this, honestly, I think one of the classes I really struggled with back in high school was science class. No, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not bad at science, but at the same time, I'm one of those kids that when I go to school, I only want to learn subjects I actually care about. Like, for example, keyboarding. I love typing on keyboards and also doing computer stuff. So honestly, it was easy. Let's just say all the easy classes I wanted to do and all the classes that really took my mind to really put into work, I did not want to do. And science was one of them. I remember one day though, I was going into my science class, and when I entered in there, I remember my buddy came up to me saying, "Yo, Bubba, real quick, bro, did you know they changed the science teacher?" I remember I was really confused because we had like the same science teacher for like the first 3 months of our science class being a thing for our semester, but then they ended up changing it to some chick that we never even heard of. We're just gonna call her Miss M. Now, Miss M, apparently a lot of people were talking about her throughout the school, saying that she was one of the most attractive teachers they've seen, and on top of that, she was very jitty. If you guys know what jitty means, basically like she's really like upbeat, she's really perky. That's a better word for it. So knowing this, I was like, okay, well, whatever, how bad could it be? So I remember I ended up going into my classroom, and afterwards when I went in there and sat down, I remember I saw this teacher walk up in front of the class, and she was one perky lady. Like, no joke, she literally started the class off with like her hands together saying, "All right, class, get ready for an amazing day." And when I looked at her, the more I thought about it, I could not figure out how old she was. Like, no joke, when I say this, I thought she was like either in her 20s or in her 40s. Like, it was that weird of an age gap that I could not tell how old she was. And obviously, don't get me wrong, I could just put my hand up and ask her, "How old are you?" But at the same time, I feel like that could lead to a lot of bad things. I don't know, my mom always told me never ask a woman how old they are because, you know, it's not the right thing to do. But at the same time though, you can never tell what's what anymore. Like, seriously, there are 12-year-olds that look like they're 20. Like, this world's really gone downhill at this point. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember when this teacher was teaching the class, one thing I really realized was like she kept staring at me for no reason, and every time like she asked a question, she looked at me first with eye contact and then looked at all the other students right after. It was like she was expecting something from me, and I have no idea what. Obviously, I didn't answer any of the questions that she asked that science class, nor did I even care, to be honest, because like I said earlier in the video, I didn't really pay attention to school, nor did I care enough for it. But then I remember after a while, she asked this one question that was really bizarre. She said, "Okay, Bubba, so can you tell me, do you have 11 protons?" I remember I looked at her and I'm like, "What? Protons? What do you mean?" And then she said afterwards, really oddly, "Because you are sodium fine." What is what I said? I remember so confused, and afterwards a bunch of students started laughing, especially like the smart kids in the back of the classroom that were sitting there. They all looked at me and said, "Do you not understand what she just said, loser?" And then I remember I looked at her and I'm like, huh? I didn't understand the question, because I thought I got the answer wrong, which I obviously would have if I ended up saying, "Wait, what?" But you guys know what I mean. But then she just ignored the question and then just kept working in the classroom and teaching the class. Now, honestly, I had no idea what happened in that moment. I remember I was really confused, and then afterward, my buddy texted me saying, "Dude, did you not understand what just happened?" And as I quickly glanced at my phone, I texted him back saying, "Dude, I have no idea what you mean." And then literally, he ended up texting me back saying, "The teacher just flirted with you, bro. Like, literally just flirted with you in front of all of us." I remember I looked around and I saw everyone just staring at me still, and I'm like, oh, that's weird, and ignored it and just kept listening to the class. Anyways, after class, I remember everyone got up and the bell rang, and basically I was ready to leave my classroom, but right before I left, I remember the teacher ended up saying, "Hey, Bubba, can you come here real quick?" I remember I turn around, I look at her, I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And then afterwards, I ended up walking up to her, and she said, "Yeah, so I was just wondering, do you need like extra help in class? Because like I'm down to help you every day after school for a bit." And I remember I looked at her and I'm like, am I failing my class? Because if I wasn't, then I wasn't gonna stay, obviously. But then afterwards, she ended up going to her computer, looking at me, looking back at her computer, and then says, "Yeah, you're actually failing. You're at a 42%. I remember I was so confused because the last teacher that before he left, he ended up saying that I was at a 65. So I was passing, but now I'm failing 45%. What? None of it made sense. So I remember I ended up looking at her saying, all right, I guess I'll do some extra courses, because, you know, she said she would help me out. So obviously, I remember during that day, I remember going to my other classes and kind of panicking, but at the same time weirded out how randomly I was failing a class that I thought I was doing good in, or at least passing. I remember I was super confused, and I was just doing my own thing, doing my own classes, and afterwards my buddy walked up to me saying, "Dude, it's so weird how that teacher flirted with you in science class." class. And after I looked at him, I'm like, yeah, but dude, I'm failing my class. He ended up looking at me saying, what? We were passing literally not even before she came. And that's when I started to think a bit differently. I thought maybe that she was making me fail just so I would see her. So I was gonna go confront her, but honestly, at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, guys. She wasn't like ugly, you know what I mean? Like she looked young, but at the same time, she looked old. I don't know. It just got to the point where I was questioning in my mind, should I do this or not? Then I remember after school came, and basically I ended up, you know, going towards her classroom when the bell rang, and I ended up going into the classroom, and she looked at me and said, hey, Bubba, welcome to class. I remember I looked around and I saw no one was there. It was just me. And you would think for a person that's, you know, trying to help other students to pass their class, there's no way I'm failing science out of the whole school. Like seriously, out of the entire school, I'm the only one failing science class. That made no sense. But anyways, I ended up sitting down and I ended up basically starting to, you know, listen to what she was teaching and stuff. And every time she would teach something, she kept making a pickup line. Like I remember the other one she said, she was literally like, are you made of copper and tellurium? Because you are C-U-T-E, cute. And I remember when she said that, I was just so weirded out. It got to the point where I just didn't want to be there. And I kept, you know, telling her, honestly, like, don't get me wrong, I like the lines and the pickup lines and stuff, but it's not really like my way of learning. Then I remember when I said that, she ended up looking at me and saying, oh, really now? And then she ended up coming really up close to me. And it seemed like that she had the eyes of like the devil's tango. Like she wanted to do it. So I remember as she came up to me and then literally out of nowhere, she ended up kind of like grabbing my like shoulders. And then she ended up coming down towards the side of my face. And she ended up giving me a kiss on the cheek saying, you're really cute though. At that point, I knew what was going to go down. And I kind of just didn't think it was the right moment because we were literally in a classroom. And at the time, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know if there was like cameras in the classroom. But at the same time, I didn't really care even though it already kind of just started happening. And let's just say one thing led to another. She ended up getting really close to me. And yeah, she ended up sitting on top of me. And we ended up, I guess, doing the devil's tango on the literal desk. Yeah, not the teacher's desk, on my student desk. So you got to think, a student desk with a teacher on top and me hitting it from behind. You know what? Actually, I don't want to get demonetized, but you guys know what I mean. Anyways, long story short, that ended up happening for like 20 minutes. And I remember out of nowhere, the janitor that was in our school ended up kind of like walking down to each classroom, and he ended up knocking on our classroom and looking through the window and seeing what was going on. I remember he ended up entering in and saying, yeah, you two students shouldn't be in here. Come on, get out of here. Get out of the classroom. I got to clean it up. So I remember we both ended up putting our clothes on as fast as we could, and it seemed like the janitor didn't really care, which was a good thing, I guess. And then afterwards, I remember my science teacher ended up just leaving with me and acted like she was a student in the school, even though she was the literal teacher. But I guess the janitor doesn't really know that. So going on from there, I remember me and her, we ended up just going to the parking lot, and she ended up just telling me, oh, that was a close one. Hopefully no one finds out. And then she ends up going into her car and driving away. Just like that. She didn't even say bye to me. She just said that she was happy we weren't caught. And honestly, I would say that's the last time I ever talked to her, but let's just say she was my teacher. So obviously it wasn't the last time. But let's just say another time when she went under my desk, well, that's where things got really, really intense. But hey, it is what it is. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. So like I said earlier, join the Discord server if you guys want to hear more of this awesome event that we're having. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.